everybody? Good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to The Sweat presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm Jesse Cofield, and then there were four. We have reached the conference championship round of the NFL playoffs, and today, two teams will punch their tickets to the Super Bowl in Arizona in 2 weeks. So for the next 40 minutes, we're going to go through. We're going to give you the top plays, best bets for today's games. But before we get into that, let's dive into some data for today's conference championship games. So Eagles are favored in the NFC title game, and the public agrees. Okay, 72% of the bets, 79% of the handle coming in on the Eagles to cover the spread, but it's a little more split on the money line bets, okay? You got Philly only seeing 52% of the bets there. For the AFC Championship, 73% of the bets, 74% of the handle are on the Bengals to cover as short dogs, 71% of the bets coming in on the win outright. And if you're thinking to yourself, Jesse, what are we supposed to do with this information?
Yeah.
Well, that's where these guys come in. You can hear him now talking when he's not supposed to be. That is my co-host, Emerson Latzia.
TV's Jesse Cofield, everybody. Yeah. All right, anyhow.
Today.
Thank you. DraftKings contributor Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow, VSiN's Josh Applebaum. Good morning, gentlemen. Before we grab those best bets, let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? Punch up the standings. Here we go. Steve and Jules adding one more to the win column last week.
Head-to-head win, you're supposed to say for mine, Emerson.
Indeed.
Head-to-head win.
Josh, the
Cowboys let me down.
Well, they're frauds.
Yeah, they're frauds.
You should never lean on frauds. I mean, that was weeks prior. You were leaning on the Jags, America's real team. And what they do, they ended up making you money. But anywho, this is a team sport, and you three combined have been hitting on nearly 66% of the bets that you've been dishing out in this segment. So, Josh, you got some ground to make up here. What's your best bet today, dude?
Yeah, so I'm going to go Philly on the money line here, and I think Julian's going to have a take on this one as well. But for me on the money line, why I like Philly in this spot, number one, minus 150. That's going to be the price here. You look at the line movement, open Philly, minus 1.5. They've been bet up to minus 2.5. You're seeing a lot of juice here. Like this line is even going to minus 3. So I think if it goes to 3, you're probably going to get some San Fran buyback plus 3. But the reason why I like Philly, it's been consistent all week long. Minus 1.5 up to minus 2.5. There's been no buyback whatsoever on San Francisco. That kind of tells me that the pros are united here on the Eagles. Also, if you look at these title games, AFC, NFC championship games, you go back the last 20 years. There's a huge sample size. Home favorites, straight up, not ATS, just straight up. They're 23-9, 72%. You also have a rest advantage here. You are looking at Saturday versus Sunday in favor of the Eagles, 1 day extra rest, and they had the bye week, so I think they're a little bit fresher here. And on the short spread, minus 1.5, 2.5, this could be a close game, Emerson. You have both coaches who like to go for 2, maybe get a missed kick. That's why I'm going to pay a little more juice here, minus 150, just win the game. I'm on Eagles to win it here straight up.
Yeah, I mean, they've been fantastic at home with an average margin of victory, just north of 10 points per game. And you mentioned the spread, and Jules, I believe that's where you're looking for your best bet today?
Yeah, so I put this out earlier in the week in my article as my best bet. I played it at Eagles minus 2.5 as minus 110, which is fine. Now ticked up to minus 120. The money line earlier was at minus 145. Like, if you don't mind the juice, play the money line. Go with Josh's best bet. Obviously, I support Josh's best bet considering I'm laying a couple points with the
And I hope you win too, Julian. Yeah, we're on the same page.
Look at us.
So, play this the way that you're comfortable with it. I got it at minus 110, so I'm good with the 2.5. Now at 120, go with which way you want. But yes, this is an Eagles spot for me. In games Hurts played in, the Eagles are 8-1 at home. If you take it to ATS, they are 7-2, so they had one win in there that they didn't cover. But this is more of a Niners fade for me. I think the Eagles do match up well with the Niners, but the Niners, they haven't traveled since New Year's Day. Purdy's only played 2 road games. This team played 7 true road games this season. 4 of them were in the first 6 weeks of the season. They've played 3 road games since October 16th. We don't know what this team is going to be on the road. And out of those 4 games they traveled the first 6 weeks of the season, they lost 3 of them outright. In Chicago, in Denver, in Atlanta. This team, I think that the Niners are due for a step back on the road. This is the largest underdog they've been all season given the soft schedule. They were 1-point home dogs against the Chiefs. They got blown out in that game. They were 1-point road dogs against the Rams. They won that game, but we now know the Rams were nothing close to what we thought they were this year. I think this is a reality check for San Francisco. I like the Eagles quite a bit, and I think they get off to a good start and cover the first half too, which they've done all year at home. They're 8-1 against the spread, and Hurts starts in the first half of those home games.
I mean, facing a fearsome crowd is something San Francisco hasn't really had to deal with much over the past 3 months. So, Bukes, we're going to continue the Eagles theme here with your best bet.
Yeah, we're going to go with A.J. Brown to go over 71.5 receiving yards in this game. He has some of the best individual matchups of any wide receiver in these two games that we have going here tonight. The majority of his snaps, he lines up on the left side of the field. Does that 38% of the time when he's on the field. That puts him up against cornerback Diomedere Lenore, who's allowed a 69% reception rate on the year on 99 targets, an average of 12.4 yards per reception, and 339 total yards after the catch. Amongst all qualified cornerbacks, that's the 9th most in the league. When Jalen Hurts has to go down the field, always goes to his guy A.J. Brown. Obviously, Devontae Smith is in there as well. This is a huge spot for A.J. Brown. Love him to go over that number, 71.5 receiving yards.
I mean, you could disregard that 22-yard outing against the Giants last Saturday because
they didn't need to throw the ball.
Yeah, exactly. They were at 28-0 at halftime, so it didn't really need his services. By the way, they're already greasing up the polls in Philadelphia.
Grease him up.
Let's go, baby. All right. Good stuff, guys. Coming up next, we're going to preview the AFC Championship rematch between the Bengals and the Chiefs here. How much of an issue will Patrick Mahomes' ankle be? Let's talk about it when the Sweat presented by DraftKings Sportsbook continues.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and this season, new customers can bet $5 to win $200 in free bets instantly. Use code SWEAT when you sign up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. So depending on who you ask, Eli Apple's either the best or worst trash talker in the NFL. The best because, well, he's just consistently doing it, or the worst because he actually can't back it up on the field. So after Cincinnati's win in Buffalo last week, he decided to take to Twitter, dish out a few jabs towards the Bills, mainly Stephon Diggs. So we saw Stephon Diggs appearing upset with Josh Allen on the sideline, right? He goes, well, someone get them in couples therapy and I'll pay for it. And then he's like, yo, safe travels to Cabo, fam. Get it? Because they're done. They're on vacation. Season over. Anywho, Apple's teammate, by the way, Mike Hilton, adding fuel to the trash-talking fire, calling Arrowhead Burrowhead, because we all know Joe Burrow 3-0 against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Jesse and the gang hanging out at the desk. Take us inside the numbers of this AFC Championship matchup, please.
Well, let's just say the Bengals are certainly not lacking swagger coming into Arrowhead, right? We know that. Public seems to think that they can back it up. But do you see Cincy coming into Arrowhead and coming out on top once again, Jules? I mean, the record says yes.
Yeah, and this is a game, obviously, the story of the week was Mahomes' ankle and the roller coaster line movement that we saw here. Now, the Bengals are a team that probably at some point, we have to admit, have been getting mispriced. They keep covering these games as underdogs. They go into Buffalo and dominate as 5-point or larger dogs. Like, there's something to that, and there's something to the Bengals matching up well with the Chiefs. What I cannot ignore in this game, and first of all, I think Mahomes' ankle seems to be healthier than we anticipated. So Mahomes seems to be in pretty good shape for this game. We are getting a discount on this game on Kansas City, regardless of who you like. If you tell me you think the Bengals are going to win this game, I'm not going to argue with you. But I will argue with you the fact that we're getting a discount on the Chiefs at the current price. If the Mahomes injury never happens, this opens 4, 5, and now we're sitting there. It's moved from from KC being a home dog to now a slight favorite up to 2. I think you're still getting a discount on Kansas City on the money line, and that would be my play at this point in time on this game.
Steve, how are you looking at this one?
I think the Bengals can pull it off. They've done this numerous times now against the Chiefs. We have 2 stories in this kind of game here that feel like it's overblown: the Mahomes ankle injury and the depletion of the Bengals offensive line. Last week, that was the big issue. Oh, how is Burrow going to throw? He was only under pressure on 12 of his 39 dropbacks and completed 5 of those 10 pass attempts. When he's been under pressure so far this season, he's completed over 56% of his pass attempts. That's the 4th best mark in the league. He does well under pressure even when that offensive line is in shambles right now. So I think the Bengals, with their offensive line issues, if you want to say, has been overblown. I still think they can win against this Chiefs team whose secondary has really struggled all down the stretch.
Yeah, Josh, what do you think?
I think this is the hardest game to cap this weekend. This is really difficult for a couple of reasons. Number one, Julian mentioned this line movement has been insane all week long. You open as high as Kansas City -3 to start. It flipped immediately when we thought there was going to be issues with Patrick Mahomes' ankle, all the way to you're looking at the other way with Bengals -3. There's a ton of buyback. The reports that obviously Mahomes, he looks good, practicing, moving around pretty well. The line's now shot the other way to KC -2. So my first thought is, did anybody middle this game, Jesse? Did they get a couple points on one side, a couple points the other? But to me, why it's difficult is if you like the Bengals here, number one, dogs are 60% ATS in the playoffs the last 5 years. Burrow's 3-0 against KC. He's also 16-7 ATS, 70% as a dog. But here's why it's hard, and I can't just go run and bet the Bengals, is that I got to be true to the market and what the market's telling us. The line is going to Kansas City here. All late movement last couple of days has been KC becoming a favorite again, -1. We walked into the studio today, it was -1.5. Now it's -2. And from a contrarian angle, you're getting Patrick Mahomes only getting like 25% of bets. You never get Mahomes in that contrarian of a spot. So to me, with both conflicting angles here, I'll lay off. I could look at a teaser, taking the Bengals up, Jesse, to 7.5 or 8. But I would just say this, I lean a little bit under. It's 48. Everyone's taking the over, yet some books are juicing up the under a little bit. You have seen high totals here, 48 or higher. The under, the last 5 postseasons, is 23-12, 66%. So I'll lean under. And again, you tell me like the Bengals or KC, I can't argue with either of those.
One other angle that we're forgetting in this game, because of the Mahomes injury, because of the Bengals storyline, like now we're burying the revenge angle factor from last year in the AFC Championship game when the Chiefs were up huge in this game and Mahomes admittedly choked. They're going to want this game against the team that embarrassed them in the second half of last year's AFC Championship game. Not that the Bengals don't want to win the AFC Championship game, but having that revenge factor on a contrarian Mahomes' mind in this game, like, who would have ever thought we would be in this spot with this angle on the Chiefs?
Yeah, let's talk about him. So he said practices went better than he expected after that ankle injury. His passing prop, though, is still set pretty high, 285.5. So, Steve, how much do you think, it can be feeling good, but, this is still pretty high for him?
It is pretty high, and I like taking the under on this one here. If you look at his yards per pass attempt in that game against the Jaguars, he averaged 6.5 per pass attempt against the Jaguars. That's the lowest output he's had all season long. On the season, he's averaging around 8, so it's a pretty big drop-off here. If he can get those quick dump-offs through the middle of the field with someone like Travis Kelce, he did that 7 times for 57 yards in that game against the Jaguars. That's the spot where he can really connect with Kelce well. He doesn't have to go deep downfield, so I still think that this is a fairly priced number, but I still think he's going under.
Jules, what do we think?
Yeah, and we're getting even money on that over, too. I'm looking to go in Mahomes' favor when everybody's against him. The number's probably a little bit depressed because of the ankle injury. People are probably betting the under because of the ankle injury. He looked good during the week, or the ankle is in much better shape than we anticipated, and you know that he'll have something going through him to have him feeling pretty good when that game kicks off. I think Mahomes is going to have a pretty good game in this spot. So I'll zig when everybody else is going to zag, especially when that, incorporates going with Mahomes when going with Mahomes is always where everyone is. So I'll take the over if it's at even money.
Josh, that's kind of what you mentioned. Like, all these numbers on Mahomes are depressed right now. So is this the time to jump on it?
So to Julian's point, I think that makes a lot of sense. People are kind of questioning Mahomes. Great player here, obviously. He's going to want to look to produce here today. But I got to, again, kind of look at the market. And what the market's telling me is yesterday, Mahomes over-under was 286.5. You look at the DraftKings website right now, it's 285.5. So it has fallen 1 yard over the last 24 hours. And that under 285.5 is minus 120 to the under. So even though it's fallen a full point, they're still making you pay a higher price than the under. So again, I don't want to bet against Mahomes, but to me, I'd go under or nothing just on what the market's telling me.
All right, good stuff, guys. Coming up, Brock Purdy has been a nice story for the 49ers, but what are the chances he'd be here today without this guy, Christian McCaffrey? We're going to talk about expectations for CMC, prop bets to target in Philly, all that coming up when the Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, returns. DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL, and this season, new customers can bet $5 to win $200 in free bets instantly. Use code SWEAT when you sign up. Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook. So later today, Brock Purdy is going to try and lead his team to a Super Bowl game. He's going to do it in his home state of Arizona here. But to do so, he's going to have to knock off Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Not an easy task to do so. Former NFL lineman, DK podcast host, friend of the program, Ross Tucker. We had him on earlier, and we asked him, are people undervaluing the Eagles here? Have they forgotten just how good this team is? Hear what he had to say.
I think a lot of people did, yeah. I mean, he got hurt. They lost a couple games with Minshew. He came back, didn't look great against the Giants. They were the best team in football all year. They're 15-1 with him as their starter. They have the most talented team. I mean, they got the best team, dude. They have 18 of their 22 starters are Pro Bowl or Pro Bowl alternate caliber players. They have a loaded team. This is the year for them. I mean, even in this game, they're playing at home with Hurts healthy, against a rookie quarterback. It's a huge opportunity for the Eagles.
Ross covered the Eagles all season, so he knows what he's talking about. Now let's see if our analysts agree. Emerson Latzia is here with them
all right. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. Back with Josh, Jules, and Steve. So Philly may be called the city of brotherly love here, guys, but Brock Purdy better gear up for the fight of his life today. You could take pressure off Mr. Irrelevant here by feeding Christian McCaffrey, whose projected rushing total is 58.5 yards, receiving total set at 32.5 on the DK Sportsbook. Bukes, where do you think he'll be most effective in this game?
I think he'll be most effective through the air in the receiving game. That's kind of where he excels. But I think this is also a good opportunity to take the under on his rushing yards. I mean, he played 66% of the snaps last week. Elijah Mitchell was involved on 33% of the snaps. So we've got about a 6-3 split there. When Mitchell's on the field, though, he's been the one that's been getting the ball. I mean, there was only 8 snaps last week that he was on the field and he didn't actually touch the ball, whereas McCaffrey was on the field for a lot, but didn't touch the ball on all those snaps there. I think this is just a spot where McCaffrey has been nursing that calf injury. He's been much more effective through the air, not necessarily on the ground. Eagles got to run good run defense, too, as well. This isn't the best matchup for him, so getting that number of under 58.5 rushing yards, I think he finds success through the air, but I think he kind of struggles on the ground.
Okay, where do you sit on this one, Josh?
So I'm actually going to go the other way here. I'll take the under 32.5 on his receiving yards. Now, just in terms of the calf injury, he missed practice earlier this week, but he did practice on Friday, so he's going to play. He's going to be good to go here. But kind of what I'm going to do is kind of recreate some of these box scores and what Philly's done against pass-catching running backs recently. So number one, you're looking at McCaffrey with the under 32.5. 2 playoff games so far this postseason. He had 22 receiving yards against Dallas. He had 17 against Seattle, both well under the number right now. But also Saquon Barkley. That's kind of my comp here. Barkley's been, kind of McCaffrey-ish here, both rushing and receiving. Saquon against Philly just had 2 catches for 21 yards. So to me, going up against a really good pass defense here, especially against running backs, I'll take the under 32.5. And also, again, will this injury get re-aggravated? You could also be a live line bet here depending on whether he gets hurt or not or how the game is playing out. But it's always difficult for me, and I know the NFL, everyone's banged up. But again, guy who has a calf issue, I don't really want to go run to the window and bet all these overs. I'll take the under 32.5 receiving.
Jules, maybe anytime touchdown's the way to go considering he's scored in 8 straight games.
It's minus 140 on DraftKings Sportsbook. We are running a boost on DraftKings Sportsbook to get it to plus 150.
Look at
So
that.
if you are going to back McCaffrey, getting a 90-cent boost on your bet there is probably the way to go. In terms of the yardage, it's tough. Like, you look at his numbers last week against Dallas. He carried it 10 times for just 35 yards. He was targeted a lot in the passing game, which scares me a little bit. He caught 6 of 8 targets, but it was for just 22 yards. If we all kind of like the Philly side of this game, if San Francisco is going to be playing from behind on the road, a guy like Brock Purdy, maybe you're going to trust some more checkdowns to McCaffrey in this game, which scares me. If I were to play it, I think I would go to the under on the rushing, would be the favorite of any of the McCaffrey props, non-touchdown boost related, because those 10 carries for 35 last week scare me. Now you go to Philly, it's going to be a tougher job.
Bukes, real quick here. We got about 45 seconds to go in the block. 46.5 rushing yards for Jalen Hurts. What would you do?
Yeah, we didn't really need to see him get unlocked last week because the Eagles never really needed to get that pressure. I think with that in mind, I think he'll be ready to go on this one. Use his most dominant weapon here are his legs. I like him to go over that number today.
What do you think, Josh?
I'll go under again, just going with the market here. This was 47.5 yesterday. It's 46.5 here, going up against a great defensive line. Give me the under here, 46.5.
Maybe this line, Jules, is overvalued based on perception rather than realistic expectations.
Over. Niners haven't faced a rushing quarterback all year. They faced Hurts in a monsoon in week 1. These two teams met last season. Hurts, 10 carries for 82 yards and a tud.
All right, gentlemen, hang out. We have one more break to go, one more block to go. You three are dishing out your favorite prop bets today when we come back in 120 seconds.
All right, we are bringing you this show, The Sweat,
Look at
live
that
from Radio
cactus.
Row in Arizona, starting Monday, February 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll be on live every day. We got tons of special guests, DK friends like Mike Golick Jr., Ross Tucker, our colleagues over at VSiN. So watch The Sweat every day during Super Bowl week on all the DraftKings social channels as we cover Super Bowl 57. Let's go.
Yep, tons of Super Bowl props to choose from on the DK Sportsbook. That's then. Let's talk now. Gentlemen, over at the big screen, Jules, Josh, and Steve, give me your favorite props today for the NFC and AFC championship games. Take it away, Steve.
All right, so we're going to go through the props like you just said. Julian, what do you got for your favorite prop for today?
All right, we're going to that Chiefs-Bengals game. We are going to Travis Kelce. I don't care what Mahomes' ankle looks like. We are going over on his receiving prop, 78.5. Last I looked on the DraftKings Sportsbook. He got into the 90s against Jacksonville. He had 14 catches in that playoff game last week. This is a trend for Kelce in the playoffs. He has 95 or more receiving yards in 7 straight playoff games. Mahomes goes to the dude that he trusts, and now with Tyreek Hill out of the mix as well. I know he's been gone all season, but we're now in the postseason for the first time without him. He's going to have to lean on Kelce even more. And then if the ankle is an issue, rolling out at all, throwing some of those deep balls, Kelce's going to be that guy to catch those balls underneath, scamper a little bit for first downs. He's always involved in the postseason. I like him to go over his receiving prop here.
Josh, quickly, what you got?
Isaiah Pacheco, Pride of Rutgers, give me over 47.5 rushing yards, minus 135 to the over, juiced up for a reason. If you look at his last 10 games, he's gone over this number in 9 of them. He had 12 for 95 against Jacksonville. When these teams played back in December, he had 14 for 66. Give me Pacheco over 47.5.
And then real quick, just rehashing from last segment, Christian McCaffrey to go under that 58.5 rushing yards. I think he's still nursing that calf injury. They'll rely with him more through the air. Justine Emerson, wrap it up.
Wow.
Efficient.
That was very professional and efficient, dude.
That's how you do a
Steve
show.
hosts a podcast.
Hey.
All right.
Nice work. Yes. the
Thank you,
Owners of
everyone,
Moms.
for watching. Like we said, don't forget we will be doing the show The Sweat every day during Super Bowl week live from Arizona. We
Yeah.
will be on Radio Row. We're going to have so many cool guests and stuff. It's going to be really awesome. These guys will also be contributing from here.
I look forward to that. Nothing this week for Pro Bowl week, though. We're going to basically just chill and prep for our big trip.
Yeah, but
It
we'll
gets
be on
cold
every
in the
day during
desert.
the week at 11 a.m. on
Gotta
the
go.
DraftKings socials. Enjoy the games today.
We have to go.